Welcome, friends. We're really happy you're all here today on what is a raw and rainy day here in Providence. And we invited some warmth and light from the springtime in Israel. Sarah Tuttle-Singer is with us. She is an author of the book Jerusalem Drawn and Quartered and the new media editor at Times of Israel. Raised in Venice Beach, California on Yiddish lullabies and civil rights anthems, she now lives in Jerusalem with her 3 children, where she climbs roofs, explores cisterns, opens secret doors, talks to strangers, and writes stories about people, especially taxi drivers. Sarah also speaks before audiences left, right, and center through the Jewish Speakers Bureau, asking them to wrestle with important questions while celebrating their willingness to do so. Like a wonderful soulmate of mine, she loves whiskey and tacos and chocolate chip cookies, old maps, foreign coins, and discovering new ideas from different perspectives. And like many of us, she's a work in progress. Sarah, welcome to our Temple Bethel Lunch and Learn. The floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. It's an honor to be here, and thanks for joining me, letting me join you, and sharing this space. Now, before I begin, just a heads up, I'm going to be reading from a war diary of sorts. And just as the news out of Israel has been pretty horrific for the last 6+ months, some of the stories in this piece will reflect that, and there are going to be some things that may be challenging. And if for whatever reason you need to mute me, walk away, shut the Zoom altogether, I won't be offended. I understand these are difficult times, and if for whatever reason there are younger listeners right now, you may want to check in with them and suggest that they not listen for some of this. So with all that said, I will begin. It's Saturday morning, October 7th, and the sirens come one after the other here in Jerusalem. I've lost count already, and my coffee is cold. Just across the road from our home, a salvo of fireworks and gunfire too. A truck rumbles by and cars beep their horns. A young shepherd herds his sheep down the hill toward the desert in silence. My friend's husband just got pulled out of shul while he was dancing with the Torah. The army needs him immediately, right now, and he can't say where he's going. Our neighbor's son had to take the car to get to his army base, breaking Shabbat, the first time he's ever done that. But this is more important. Our hearts gallop, the blue morning trembles, and the birds don't know which way to fly. It's Saturday afternoon, and my son's friend's sister is missing. Her name is Shiraz. She's the cool big sister, the fun babysitter, the smart, lively girl who everybody loves. She was last seen near Netivot, and the last known contact with her was just after 7 a.m. when the massacres began. I just hope we'll have good news soon. I think about all the others that we know are missing, the ones that we know are dead. The numbers just keep rising by the moment. It's too hard to bear. In an Israel that is often fragmented and fraught over our differences, when there is horror and tragedy, we come together as family. We are family. It's Sunday afternoon, and they found Shiraz's body lying on scorched and blood-soaked earth. I really have no words. I watched her grow from a bubbly teenager to a vivacious young woman ready to take on life with a full embrace. Her mother is also one of the most radiant people I know and one of the kindest. My heart breaks for them all. And I won't lie to you. I'm full of rage right now. So much rage, I can barely swallow. It's Sunday night, and I don't understand how anyone can see the carnage Hamas themselves are posting on social media and still support them. What kind of people celebrate when babies are ripped from their parents' arms and women are raped next to the corpses of their friends and grandmothers are butchered on a Facebook live stream? Where is your moral compass? Friends outside of Israel, please see this. See us and say something. It's Monday afternoon, October 9th. My friend Omar is originally from Gaza, and he sent me this message, which I'm sharing with his permission. Sarah, I realize my words change nothing and mean very little, but I am so sorry for what my people are doing to your people. Omar is mistaken about his words not changing anything. His words pierce the darkness with light. They do more than he can imagine. His words are an entire universe. It's Thursday, October 12th, and I'm trying to remember two things can be true at the same time. Hamas slaughtered 1,200 innocent people, men, women, and children in Israel in vicious, inhumane, and cruel ways. They raped, they tortured, and butchered everyday folks who were just waking up on a Saturday. And you cannot negotiate with monsters. Hamas needs to be eradicated. And there are innocent families in Gaza too, in so many ways, held captive by Hamas, including kids who are now living in darkness and enduring Israeli reprisal airstrikes, kids who have very little hope of a better future at this point. And one day, we'll need to build bridges with the innocents who survived this war. I know we aren't there yet. The pain is too thick and the fear is too suffocating. So for now, I'll try my best to remember that while we must do whatever it takes to protect our children, one day our children and their children will emerge from the rubble and need to rebuild together. It's Shabbat again. How is that possible? And we begin reading from the Torah all over again, from the beginning, in the beginning, creation. And in the beginning, there was darkness. And all I see is destruction all around me, rot and viscera and blood and smoke. But Rabbi Evan Schultz reminds me of the prophetic words of Jonathan Larson in his play Rent. The opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. It's Sunday the 15th, and I just learned my friend Heba Zagut was killed in an Israeli airstrike. Heba was a spectacularly talented artist from Gaza, and I connected with her work through a mutual friend, and we chatted a bit online. I was saving up for one of her paintings, her renderings of Jerusalem, place she considered home, but had probably never seen with her own eyes, flowed straight from the heart. The stories she tells through her art speak of beauty, of hope, of struggle, and resilience. It would be so simple to think of this as a good versus evil situation, us versus them, so simple and so easy and yet so very wrong too. A person is a person is a person, and this person was my friend. A woman no different from me, really, when it comes down to fundamentals. Just born on the other side of a seemingly insurmountable divide. I count her among our dead, too. It's Wednesday, the 17th of October, and I saw footage of women in London and in Brooklyn ripping the photos of kidnapped Jewish babies down from a wall. They're simple flyers with little faces of smiling kids who may never come back home to their mothers, if their mothers are even alive. I wonder if these women are mothers themselves. Not that it matters. I mean, it really doesn't matter, but I thought we mothers shared an understanding that babies would be off limits even in war. I've always just assumed we were all connected, all the mothers, by a pulsing cord of shared experience that nourishes our capacity to care and love and protect, a twinge in our womb, a heaviness in our breasts, the memory of a milk-drunk head on our shoulder, or a little hand pulling at our hair. The actual ache we feel when our child is hurting and we can't help. I thought it was big enough, vast enough, powerful enough to spill over and make us care about other babies, even if they aren't ours. And if not make us care, at least prevent us from doing harm, from ripping posters off of walls, from laughing at the mounting losses, the wailing mothers, the hurting mothers, the babies calling for their mothers in rank and pitiless darkness inside the maw of the most hideous monster that we told our children doesn't exist. I had hope, you see. Hope that the other mothers in Gaza would hear the babies screaming for their mothers and would hold them and protect them like the midwives did in Egypt. that they'd look into the haunted eyes of Raz and Aviv and Ariel and Kfir and keep them safe. I'd like to think that I would do the same for their babies. God could not be everywhere, and therefore he made mothers, so the Jewish saying goes. But I saw footage of women ripping photos of these children off of walls, and I weep. It's just before Shabbat, and earlier at the mall today, there was a new dad holding a tiny blue bundle in his arms. Oh, he's so cute, I say to him. Oh, he's my whole world, the father replies. Well, what's his name? I ask. We changed it, he tells me. I won't tell you what it was before, but after the war began, after all the hell we are living, we wanted to give our son a new destiny. So we named him Raphael Eitan. Raphael for healing, Eitan for strength. In Judaism, we say that the day a baby is born is the day that God decided creation was not complete without his or her precious soul in it. Babies born now are arriving into a shattered world, and their tasks will be mighty. There is so much pain and suffering and injustice, but each new life in this generation is arriving at exactly the right time to bring change and beauty and strength and healing for all of us. One day. It's Monday, October 23rd, and I'm just so tired of the social media vitriol, and I feel like I need to set the record straight. Jews belong to the land. We have historical and genetic connections to this place that has nourished us for thousands of years. It nourishes us to this day, even still. And while Palestinians also belong to the land with their own deep and abiding connection that we must recognize and respect, no one, and I mean no one, has the right to call Jews colonizers in Israel. We are not colonizers. We are Jews who have come home. And no one, neither Jew nor Arab, neither us nor them, are leaving. On Tuesday, the 24th, I saw a wedding photo, and such a wedding photo it was. The couple holding hands, beaming, a filmy white veil over the bride's face, the groom with a white yarmulke on his head. Both of them in their army uniforms. I am sure they planned a different sort of wedding, but both got called up and need to serve, and so they embrace what they have. When given the option, we Jews always choose life. Even when it's not as we expected, we open our arms and we just take it. We don't wait for the right moment. We seize the moment and we make it right. Even in the midst of tragedy, in Judaism, we have a rule. If a funeral procession and a wedding procession meet at a crossroads, the funeral procession makes way for the wedding procession because life comes first, always. On Thursday, October 26th, nearly 3 weeks since we woke up in hell, I see people demanding an Israeli ceasefire in Gaza. They don't like the bombings. Neither do I. Think about innocent Palestinian families in Gaza that had nothing to do with the horrific massacre in which 1,200 of my brothers and sisters in Israel were butchered by Hamas, and 240 are still held hostage in the belly of the beast. But then today, a Hamas official literally said the following. He said, Israel is a country that has no place in our land, and we must remove it because it creates a security, military, and political catastrophe to the Arab and Islamic nation. We are not ashamed to say this. So what do you want us to do? Like line up and get shot, just quietly sit and wait to be slaughtered? Does it trigger you when we defend our country and our very lives? Look, I'm all for working out a just and equal and safe solution so Palestinians and Israelis can live side by side as partners one day. But please understand, Hamas is a terror group and they want us killed. They want all of us gone. This isn't Jewish paranoia. They say it. You just have to listen to what they say with their own mouths. Do you actually expect us to cooperate with them and just die? It's been 4 weeks since the war began, and I've learned two things. There are a lot of people around the world who don't even love dead Jews. And despite our oft internal strife, a struggle which seems literally threaded into the fabric of who we are, we in the Jewish community and our allies who actually do care about us, when it comes down to it, We truly love each other with a ferocity that is spectacular to behold. We will support one another and stand together as a loyal family. And this is a beautiful thing. It's been 5 weeks since the war began and the windows rattle. My heart stammers, but these aren't rockets. It's only rain. It's only thunder. 10 soldiers were killed in battle in Gaza today, their families crushed under the weight of their sacrifice. But it's only thunder. We are burying our dead, mangled body parts, unidentified orphan pieces of humanity, desiccated. But it's only thunder. A parent and a child were tied together with wire and set on fire, a lump of charred flesh as black as the hole of darkness that swallowed them. But it's only thunder. Charred teddy bears and backpacks and little shoes. But it's only thunder. The red-headed babies are still not home. They're still in darkness. It's only thunder. Countless women were gang raped by Hamas terrorists next to the corpses of their friends and partners, and then when it was over, they were shot and urinated on by the creatures who defiled them. It's only thunder. Shani Luke was beheaded after being paraded around Gaza, abused and ravaged. It's only thunder. The mothers weep. It's only thunder. The sky roars. The rains come down soft then hard. We cry and we cry and we cry, and it will never be a way to wash away the blood. I can't believe that it's been more than a whole moon cycle since all this began. I've never felt more closely connected to the Jewish community, and it's gotten me thinking about what it means to be a Jew. My Judaism is a life force I inherited in my DNA, the DNA of pogrom survivors, of New World pioneers, of poets and rabbis, writers and physicists, a legacy of dreamers and people who imagined not just the world to come, but the world that could be. Focus on the living, my mom would say to me, words her mother said to her, passed down through long winters in Chicago, across the sea to Poland, where everyone but my great-grandparents were killed. Focus on the living, which is why I will not celebrate death. Not ever, not even for my enemies. When a terrorist is killed, I will not weep, but I will not cheer or hand out candies. My Judaism does not allow that. My Judaism is a rhythm that began when my ancestors chose to focus on the world we have and the world we can create, a heaven on earth, our very own messianic age, a world where we don't wait for redemption, but we bring it ourselves. I can't believe it's already November. I can't believe it's the middle of November. It's been over a month since October 7th, but every day I have to physically look at a calendar to see what day it is. Is it Wednesday? Is it Friday? I thought today was Monday, but it's actually Tuesday. The thing is, for me, it's really just the same day over and over again. It's October 7th. Yesterday was October 7th. Today is October 7th. The todays of tomorrow will be October 7th. I don't know how to stop making it be October 7th. I'm not okay. It's Monday, November 13th, and I'm absolutely crushed. They identified the bones of my friend Vivian Silver. We all believed that she was one of the hostages in Gaza, but we now know that she was one of the 1,200 plus people murdered in the October 7th raid. Vivian was a radical optimist, a builder of bridges and a visionary, and she was my friend. The word was feels all wrong. I feel gutted. This is a hungry, fierce, ravaging loss that tears the fabric of the universe for me and for so many others. I really believed we'd have that coffee that we planned on sharing, and I selfishly needed her optimism on how we could fix things here when all the pieces seem so horrifically broken. I don't have the right words to shape these dark and wild feelings. I cry and I rage. And then I think of Vivian, her wisdom, her empathy, her grace, and her foresight. I know this isn't a war of Arab versus Jew, Israeli versus Palestinian, but it's a war between the forces of death and destruction against the forces of life and creation that exist in both our communities. Darkness, destruction versus war and light and creation and peace. And even though my rage right now threatens to eat me alive, I think of Vivian and her courage. Even on the last day of her life, she was fighting for peace on the radio as rockets hurtled down from the sky. And I and others like me will pick up the sacred charge and continue to fight for an end to extremism, murder, terror, and war. What Vivian stood for will be an is, and a what will be, and not a was or what could have been. We will not let the forces of darkness win. Because Vivian was right. We won't be truly safe until we have a just and lasting and secure peace. It's Tuesday and the weather changed, as if God and the universe are feeling the sharp, cold gasp of grief along with us. It's gotten me thinking about weather here, and I've come to the following conclusion. There are exactly two official seasons in Israel. There's the season called, your baby is dressed too warm season. And then there's the season, no, where are your baby socks season. And then for a week in between each of these two seasons, it's both, depending on the random stranger who stops you in the street or the bank or the post office or Aroma Cafe or the bus or whatever. And I love it. I really love it because we care. And that caring transcends religious and cultural and even gender differences. And okay, it's also annoying too. But I'm grateful to live in a place where we feel that every child is our child. Although as the days pass and we bury our dead and wait for news of those in captivity, it's also agony. It's a new season now. The sky is steely gray and the wind whips across my cheeks. I hope the red-headed babies have their socks on. October 7th was 40 days ago. In Jewish tradition, the number 40 carries symbolic weight. It can represent a time of testing or transition. The flood lasted for 40 days and nights. Moses spent 40 days on Mount Sinai, and we Israelites wandered in the desert for 40 years before reaching the Promised Land. These stories all underscore the idea of endurance and eventual transformation and triumph associated with this numerical motif. October 7th was 40 days ago. And where are we now? We're still holding each other close in the ark of our covenant as the storm rages, reeling in the rarefied air of grief suspended between heaven and earth, together lost in the desert, searching the horizon for answers, for hope, and for our brothers and sisters who were stolen from us. There's no ending yet to the story. I doubt there will be a tidy one, even if there is, but one day, thousands of years from now, they'll gather together and tell the story of this time, how we were tested, and how we transformed, and how we triumphed. And today, in the break in the rain, I saw a rainbow. It's Sunday, November 26th, and I'm still relentlessly stuck on October 7th, and I'm a child again, staggering around, looking for my mother to smooth the sharp edges and tuck me in and tell me that I'm safe. I can't find my mother, but I look down and I see her hands. I thought today was Tuesday, but it's actually Sunday, and I'm confused. But the thing is, some of the hostages are coming home today. And so I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm sweeping the floor. The broom feels bigger than I remembered. It's been a while since I held it. Actually, I haven't swept the floor since before. In that fuzzy smudge of a planet, I vaguely remember that once upon a time place I lived on where monsters didn't exist, or at least where our government knew how to protect us like they swore they would, and where people I once thought were my fellow travelers didn't justify and celebrate bloodthirsty savagery. The house is a mess. I look around, my mother would be mortified. The dust bunnies have turned into dust woolly mammoths. Hey, don't judge me too hard. Just give me credit for washing the dishes. I'm not sure why I'm embarrassed anyway. It's not like we get much company over here anyway, but I am embarrassed. And I'm holding the broom for the first time since before because I want the house clean for them, for the hostages, the ones coming home. Please, God, let them come home. I want the place tidy enough, like the way my mom used to make the house when I was sick or heartbroken or just had a rough day, how she'd tuck the corners in just so and smooth the chaos all away. I want to do the same for them, for the women and children we hope will come home, because they deserve a nation ready to hold them and protect them, a nation organized enough and together enough to be the adult for them in the way the government wasn't for any of us when it mattered, but the way my mother was for me, the way all children deserve. We are the grown-ups now, and so I sweep the floor. Today is still October 7th. Maybe tomorrow will start being October 8th. It's Friday, December 1st, nearly 8 weeks since the slaughter of October 7th. Someone wrote to me to complain that I seem to care more about the children of Israel than the children of Gaza. Let me be clear about something. Every time I hear about any child dying, from the river to the sea, Israeli, Palestinian, of any background, of any walk of life, I feel sick to my stomach. And this direct hit against my community, the slaughter of October 7th and the ensuing mayhem and unleashed anti-Semitism, directly affects my family and my children. I'm seeing people I know and the children of people I know dead and suffering, and the emotional toll wrought on my own kids is staggering. And my kids are my first priority, always. And two things can be true at the same time. You can feel expansive, limitless empathy for all innocent lives. And anyone who says they don't prioritize their own family's safety first and foremost is a liar. Does that make me a monster? Fine. I'm a monster and a mother, and that always comes first. It's Sunday, December 3rd. There's a video making the rounds. Maybe you've seen it. It's horrible. It shows a Palestinian woman weeping over a bundle in her arms. A close-up of the bundle shows a little face with open, unseeing eyes. Opinions differ. Some say it's a grieving mother cradling her dead child, while others argue she's a crisis actor and holding a realistic, although definitely not real, baby doll. The comments are polarizing and disgusting, and some accuse Israel of baby killing bloodlust. Others accuse Palestinians of stooping to new and disgusting lows to score propaganda points. But in this war of words and comments, please let's not lose sight of the tragic toll of war on innocent babies on both sides of this conflict. While this specific case may in fact involve a plastic doll, the fact remains that children in Gaza have died horribly in this war too. And for mothers, the distinction is irrelevant to their shared pain and trauma and fear. The monsters in Hamas took so much from us on October 7th. We must not let them take away our ability to care about someone else's child. It's the first night of Hanukkah. In these times of uncertainty and tumult, lighting each candle feels like an act of resilience and hope. The glow of each flame may be ephemeral, but the tradition of lighting and singing and celebrating and connecting with one another and insistently thriving against the darkness is part of our eternal birthright. It's already January. It's a new calendar year. It's 2024, but how? It's still October 7th. And I'm taking a taxi in Jerusalem. I do that a lot. You know, I don't drive a lot these days, the taxi driver tells me on our way. This is just a part-time thing while I'm studying to be a contractor, he explains. Besides, the taxi business is slow without tourists, and to make it harder, when someone orders on the Get Taxi application app and they see my name, Muhammad, they sometimes cancel within seconds. Oh, that's too bad, I tell him. Well, I guess everyone's on edge since October 7th. It's hard for Jews to trust Arabs, to be honest. If it was the other way around, I might feel the same, he tells me. Well, contracting sounds interesting, I say. Do you like the course? Oh, I do, he says. But it's also hard these days with the war. Half the guys are in Gaza now in the army, you know, and it's hard for me because I'm an Arab. And even though I think Hamas are worse than the sons of dogs, worse than even devils, the people of Gaza are still my people. Each time I see a video of a dead child, I want to cry. And I'm a man, I'm an Arab man, and I never cry. But the little dead girl looks like my daughter, or the dead baby boy looks like my son, and I just want to cry. It's horrible, I say. It is, he tells me, and it's also hard because these guys in the course, they're my friends. But they're over there, and their job isn't to bring flowers and chocolates to the people. Their job is to fight a war, and that means their job is sometimes to kill terrorists. And sometimes people they kill look like my sister or my wife or my father or my uncle. I can't find the right words to respond to him. And yes, I worry about my friends who are fighting over there, he continues. Even though they're fighting over there, I worry about them and I check the news to see if any of them are named. And I think about their wives and their children, and then I roll a joint. Do you smoke? I roll a joint because I need to clear my head. Don't tell my wife, but I have to. It's all too much sometimes, he tells me. I understand, I say. And just yesterday, one of the guys came back. He got injured, nothing serious, but they're letting him out now. And he came to the course, and I felt so many things when I saw him. Like, I was so glad to see him, and I felt angry too, and a little afraid of him. And I didn't know what to say to him. And this guy, he's my friend. Like we know each other. I've met his kids. He's met my kids. He's really a friend. And he couldn't look me in the eye. I couldn't look him in the eye either. But then I thought to myself, this is what the extremists want. They want to make us hate each other and tear each other apart. So what did you do? I asked him. I walked over to him and I put out my hand, the taxi driver tells me. What did he do? I ask. He took it. He took it and he held it, the taxi driver says. And then I pulled him toward me and opened my arms and we embraced each other, almost like brothers. Today at Aroma Cafe, 99 days since the war began, and it almost looks like everything is normal. Almost. The parliament is cheerfully in session, and the old men sit outside and smoke and solve all the world's problems. A couple holds hands while waiting in line. A family divides up egg sandwiches and chocolate croissants, and a brother teases his sister and she teases him back. A mother wears her baby in a carrier. He squirms. What size coffee? The woman at the register asks. Large. No, you know what? Make it just frickin' huge, the mother says. She kisses her baby's head. I haven't slept in a very long time. Two old women approach her. One tells her the baby looks cold. The friend intervenes and says, no, 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 the baby's too warm. The Wolt guy grabs an order for delivery. It could be any Jerusalem day in sunny winter. The trees outside are bare and the sky is a crystal blue. Almost looks normal. Almost. But look closer. On the wall, there's a screen with the faces of the hostages. Some we know by now are dead. Look closer, and there's a woman in tears. She wipes them away. Sorry, it's just been a long 99 days, she says to no one. It's almost like you Israelis don't care about Gaza, a guy in line says in English. The mother with the baby next to him turns on him with her fangs bared. What the hell is wrong with you, she says. How can people go out and enjoy life when just a few miles away there's destruction, he asks. It's not that we don't care, she says. No one is happy about what's happening in Gaza. It's horrible. And we also didn't start this war. And we also know we have to win. Now that we are forced into it, and for fuck's sake, my friend's son is still a hostage, and she's had no sign of life, and my other friend's son was killed in battle, and my good friend was burned to death on October 7th, and my neighbor's daughter was raped and dismembered, and everywhere around the world, Jews are no longer safe. And not only do we have to defend our lives against terrorist monsters now in The Hague, we have to defend our right to defend ourselves and to defend our lives. And while we're at it, look around. That woman over there has tears in her eyes, and the hotel across the street is housing refugees from the south, and we are all exhausted and heartbroken and angry and scared. And if we are allowed to have just a little fresh air and a cup of coffee and even a goddamn croissant, if that's what it takes to get us through the day, she told him. Well, if it's so bad, why aren't you in mourning? The man asks. You think we aren't? Of course we are, but in Judaism we choose life. We do whatever it takes to keep on living and finding light. It's why we continue not just to survive, but to thrive. We insist on it. And that's why we go out and we sit and we support each other and have another cup of coffee with and then another. There is no other way for us except forward with the memories of the past, reminding us to keep going. The man backs away. I'm not sure anybody else saw their exchange, but I did, and I want you to see it too. It's February now. It's also the month of Adar in the Hebrew calendar. According to the Talmud, when the month of Adar enters, we increase in joy. And a new moon rose today as the month began. And just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. When the month of Adar enters, we increase in joy, I remind myself again. And after all, this was the Hebrew month when Haman would have had us completely annihilated, but we triumphed and continued to not only survive, but thrive just as we always have and always will. And it's also the month when the weather begins to shift from relentlessly miserable suckage to relatively pleasant. Yes, there will still be rain, but the blue sky days are soft and gilded, and they come as less of a total shock than they did in the throes of Tevet and Shvat, when the wind and the rain batter us relentlessly. And you appreciate the shift into Adar, like the first days of returned health after a rough illness. You're grateful for that little bit of sun. It's a welcome reprieve. I guess that's a form of joy too, just as the Talmud promised, right? And today I went looking for it, specifically for signs of spring. I missed most of the almond blossoms that appeared like delicate brides during Shvat because it was so damn cold and stormy, and I didn't get out to look for them. And to be honest, I was also stuck on October 7th still in Tishrei, when there's no almond blossoms. So what's the point of looking for something that just doesn't exist? And now the sun is out and I'm walking again. My body's still rusty and stiff from a long period of confinement, but I'm making myself go out into the blue and gold again here in Jerusalem. It's a bubble here in the Holy City in many ways. I should probably tell you. The cafes and the stores are open. It's almost business as usual. Hardly any sirens. The ground doesn't shake with bombs like it does in the South. But look closer and you'll see there are posters of the hostages everywhere. And together we will win signs and banners on practically every corner. Look closer, and you'll also see the signs of total exhaustion on everyone's face. A grueling, bone-shattering exhaustion. Deep, socketed exhaustion. We are still waiting up all night for our stolen brothers and sisters, and partners and friends and teachers and parents and coworkers and children to return home from captivity. We are waiting for our soldier sons and daughters and partners and friends to text us back on WhatsApp with a sign of life after a week of radio silence. We are waiting for more bad news, even though we say maybe we only have good news. But we can't lean into optimism when we're sitting Shiva with our best friend whose son, the same little boy we watched grow up, was killed, or when we are grieving our grandmother who was murdered in her pajamas on a Facebook live stream, or we are wrestling with survivor's guilt because we somehow lived while we watched our best friend get her throat cut. We wonder if we'll ever feel safe enough to go back to what it was like before October 7th. We know we never will when there are people who can't even go back home now. When really, what home? It's just a blackened shell that still smells like burned flesh. We are still waiting for our leaders to make us feel safe again. But still, I had my headphones on. I'm looking for signs of spring, had my music, songs I listened to back in the 1990s before the vast majority of kids murdered at the Nova Party and soldiers serving in Gaza were even born. And I pretended for a moment, just for a moment, that it was a different time, a safer time, a springtime, a time when the potential for joy was as real as the big blue sky above me. And then in the middle of this moment, listening to Jane's Addiction, in another pocket of the multiverse entirely, where I'm 14 again and my mom is still alive and the world feels relatively okay. And the greatest tragedy I had faced was when my cat ran away. I walked by a Shiva tent where the families of a fallen soldier are in deep mourning. So much grief in one dense little space. So much pain and anguish, a gravity well. I couldn't breathe as I walked past. A young man, a father, a universe completely destroyed. There are no words of comfort that can ever make this okay by any stretch. And still, in Judaism, we turn toward one another to try to make things a little less unbearable. We reach across the veil and enter the tent, and we sit in darkness together with the family who is facing the worst nightmare imaginable. How do you get up again after the period of mourning is over? You get up because you have to, eventually, right? But do you ever get up completely, fully? Do you ever get up wholly? Or do you leave part of yourself behind in that gravity well, a screaming, wailing, railing against the skies? Part of you stays caught in that resin always, in the sinkhole, in that space. And all over Israel, there are these tents, these gravity wells of so much anguish, too many to count, but each one as exquisitely specific and sacred as the person whose life was extinguished. We keep walking because we have to. And I kept walking because I had to. Adar right around the corner because it may still be October 7th, but it's also spring, and the sky is still blue, and the last of the almond blossoms are drifting on the wind, and the tears spring from my eyes, falling in silver trails of salt and silt over my cheeks, down my neck, to the ground like fresh rain. For those who sow tears will reap with joy, so says the psalm, and the tears keep falling all over Israel. And the new moon rose today. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. Day 110 of the war. How am I doing? Okay, you asked. I'll tell you. I want the war to end. I can't take one more story of one more dead Gazan child. And I also can't take one more story of one more dead Israeli soldier. My son's classmate's brother was one of the latest to return in a box. This is now the fifth, no wait, it's the sixth death to ravage my 14-year-old's circle since October 7th. And I don't trust our prime minister. Yeah, I said it, and I mean it. I don't think he cares about the country the way he should. If he did, he'd stand up and he'd take responsibility for the nightmare he helped get us in. He and the moral pyromaniacs in the coalition should prostrate themselves at the feet of the families of the fallen and beg forgiveness, but they care more about their chairs than the human hearts they've destroyed with their avarice. I said it and I mean it. And while all of this is real and painful for me, it is no less real and painful that our enemies in Hamas have promised to keep killing us. If Sinwar and Hania and the rest of them were to say, please, enough, we love the people of Gaza too much to continue. We will release the hostages, but just let us stay in power. You know what we're capable of doing. We will leave your communities alone and not repeat October 7th. That would be one thing. But they haven't said that. It hasn't happened. In fact, only the opposite has happened. They've said literally that they will kill us again if given the chance. They have said that they plan to keep slaughtering our brothers and sisters and partners and friends and family. They've said repeatedly that October 7th is just the beginning, and they have said they want to wipe us off the map. So what do we do with this? When someone says over and over that they want to kill us, I believe them, wouldn't you? And if it's my life or theirs, you're damn right I'll fight rough if I have to, wouldn't you? So that's why I'm exhausted. That's why I'm just one dropped spork away from losing it completely. Wouldn't you be? I want the war to end. I don't want anyone else to die. I want a new and decent woman or man to lead our embattled but resilient and beautiful nation. And still there is an existential threat to me and my children and the people I love in power. And the last thing I'm going to do is cooperate with them when they say they want to wipe us off the face of the earth. So that's how I'm doing. Thank you so much for asking. Day 140. Last week I went to get my nails done. Flamingo pink, for those of you who are desperate to know. The place where I go is in Jerusalem, and it is in an exquisite microcosm. The Russian and Ukrainian women working side by side, Jewish Israeli women and Muslim Palestinian women too. 2 women from France, 1 from Spain. It's awesome. The woman across from me, cutting my cuticles with gentle precision, is Muslim. She offers me coffee. I decline since I know she's fasting. It's Ramadan. I won't lie. In these situations with the war raging, it's sometimes hard for me to connect outside my own community. I'm tired, for one thing. I'm sad and I'm sometimes angry. I also realize that the news I read is different from the news that the average Jerusalemite Palestinian reads too. And these moments can be fraught and heavy and complex. And most of all, I'm just afraid of saying the wrong thing. I'm afraid of making it worse. And so I ask her, is it fun to work here with all the different languages? We're like the UN, she says. A little less serious, maybe. Hey, are you kidding? I ask. Nail color is extremely serious. She smiles back. Are you going to be open during Purim? I ask. No, she says. Are you celebrating? She asks this pleasantly as she buffs my nails, and the other women in the room chat in a dozen different languages. But I feel a little worn thin. Honestly, not really, I tell her. I don't know anyone who's celebrating like we used to. It just doesn't feel right with everything that's happening right now with the war. Her shoulders slump, and she rubs her eyes. You're right, she says. You're right. We both sigh. I wonder what she sees when she looks across the table. Does she see a Jew who can only think of the hostages and the soldiers? Or can she imagine that I am also heartbroken for the innocents in Gaza too? I look at her weary face and silently ask myself the same as she holds my hands and colors each nail pink. Neither of us says the words out loud. I certainly won't, and neither does she. And in that silence, that heavy, sad vacuum of silence, I choose to believe that just as I am so damn sad about the devastating effects of this war in Gaza, that she too can also feel for our hostages and innocent victims of Hamas terror. I'd like to think that we are capable of both. Day 150, and somewhere inside of me there is an audacious spark of hope that I know exists. But it's tiny and it's lost, and I'm just scraping by in a fog of existential dread, mourning, exhaustion, and heartbreak. May the stolen ones come home. May children across the land be safe and thrive together side by side underneath soft clouds and in tall grass, Jewish and Arab. May we end this war. May Hamas surrender. May we be given the chance to rebuild and even be allowed to imagine something better, a little light, that spark of hope that grows brighter. May we allow ourselves to dare to dream. The taxi driver on day 160 is tired, but he's happy. The whole GPS thing, he tells me, they scrambled the wires to hide us from Iran, and it's making the Get Taxi application app total chaos, a real balagan, he says in Hebrew. Oh man, that's not easy, I tell him. But I hope the scrambling works. I'd rather Iran stay the hell away from us. Ah, me too. But like an hour ago, taxi driver says, suddenly I was in Cairo. Crazy, I've never been, but my dad fought in the Sinai in 1967. Hey, you ever go to Cairo? He asks me. One day, I hope. I tell him, yeah, me too, he says. You know, I don't hate Arabs. I just hate Hamas. And Egypt seems interesting. Good falafel, the pyramids. Wow, it seems really cool. But where I really want to go, he says, is Lebanon. Oh, why? I ask. He smiles. You want to hear something funny? I always want to hear something funny. Okay, so the scrambling thing happened several weeks ago, he tells me. Well, the networks put us in Beirut, and I was on Tinder. I was swiping left, right, and suddenly I saw this girl. Wow. Wow, an amazing girl. Long black hair, green eyes, cute nose ring, a butterfly tattoo, gorgeous smile, like really something. She's only 2 kilometers from me. I don't look at her name. Okay, I should have looked at her name. But I know it sounds bad, but she's beautiful. I swipe right and we match. And then I look at her name. Noor. Okay, it's an Arab name, but so what? She has a beautiful smile and those beautiful eyes. Wow. So I write to her in English and she writes back and she asks if I speak Arabic. I say no, so she writes in English and we're chatting. She's a teacher. She likes swimming. I'm feeling the good vibes. Okay, I say to her, let's meet for coffee. I'm a talkless guy like that. Like, all right, we have good energy. Let's meet. So she suggests some place I've never heard of. And I tell her, I don't know it. Is it in East Jerusalem? And she's like, no way, it's in Beirut. Oh, wow, I say. Right? The taxi driver says. Isn't that totally crazy? The GPS is messing with my love life. So what happened? I asked the taxi driver. Well, the taxi driver says you won't believe this, but the girl and I are still talking. Are you serious? Yeah, why not? She's funny. She's cool. And the smile, the green eyes. I know, I'll probably never meet her, at least not here or in Beirut. But we're talking about maybe meeting somewhere, Greece or Italy. She really likes opera. We could go to the opera. He sighs. She knows you're Israeli? I ask. Yeah, of course she knows I'm Israeli, but she doesn't care, and I don't care that she's Lebanese. Okay, she hates Bibi, but so do I. And we both hate Nasrallah too, so, it works out. I laugh. But really, he continues, I like her, and it's nice to get to know her. First time I ever talked to, a Lebanese person, and the first time she ever talked to an Israeli. Okay, we know it probably won't ever be serious, but it's still nice. She doesn't think you're a spy or something? I ask him. Yeah, we joke about that too. I thought she might be a spy at first, but she's not. Hey, if it all works out, you can tell your kids the Ayatollah was your shadchan, your matchmaker, I say to him. He laughs. It's funny. It's nice that we both have a vested interest in genuine peace between our countries now. Maybe this is part of the solution. It won't solve everything, I say. It won't. But once you could travel all the way from Beirut to Cairo through Jerusalem, and maybe one day we'll be able to do it again, I tell him. Yaret, he says in Arabic. Halavai, he says again, this time in Hebrew. If only. On Shabbat, day 170, I climbed a little hill in search of a little beauty. Pink wild beauty. A friend told me there was a rare patch of wild tulips growing in the weeds, and I wanted to see it for myself. It's been a hard week. It feels fatuous to tell you all that. I'm not doing so well these days, though, given the fact that, no one's doing very well these days. And at least I'm physically safe right now. So maybe I should just, be quiet and be grateful, which believe you me, I am. But if you know me by now, then you know that being quiet about all these things isn't how I roll. So, hi, I'm not doing well these days. And sorry, my toddler son just wandered in, but his dad's with him, so it's okay. I'm forgetful. I don't remember faces or nouns or how to act like a member of polite society. I literally started meowing in public a few days ago during a particularly stressful wait in line at the supermarket. And I could really use a hug or a stiff martini, a very dry, very cold, very neat, wave it at Italy stiff martini. But no hug or no martini, and it's just me and my jagged bones poking through my skin, and it is a lot. But relatively speaking, I shouldn't complain, except I'm Jewish, and it's coded in my DNA to complain sometimes, or at least wrestle and struggle and try to fix what is broken. And that's the thing. I can't fix anything in our broken world right now. I can't fix the grief of all of us in Israel, or fix the staggering death toll in Gaza, or free the hostages, or comfort the ones who are wailing over open graves. I can't fix a damn thing, including my own struggle over this. And so I'm just here, wringing my hands. But I did decide to go look for a little wild tulips because I could use a little hope, or at least a little insouciance. But the time of blooming is ending here in Jerusalem. The anemones have already dried up, and the sprinkles of purple and yellow blossoms that dotted the hillside have mostly blown away. The waves of royal blue lupine are receding, leaving only a rocky, dry sea bottom, and the snow-white almond blossoms have melted into green. And still, my friend told me there was supposed to be tulips, so I went looking. I found rocks and weeds and a cheerful spider making his way over the edge, what seemed like it was once a mighty wall, but there were no tulips. Just a little disappointment, not huge in the scheme of things, given the state of the world now. Just a blow for me, since I really needed to see the tulips. I needed them more than I'd realized, and I felt defeated. I needed that shock of pink, wild beauty, and as I was walking back down, I saw a man with a cumulus cloud of soft hair sitting on the ground, and he was bent down, hunched over. So I went over to make sure he was okay. Hey, are you all right? I asked. Ah, of course, he said. I'm just taking pictures of the tulips. You found them. You found them, I said. I'm so glad you found them. He shrugged. Yeah, they're here in the same spot every year, this time, just this little patch. But I came to look. I needed to see that they returned after October 7th. I needed a little hope today, he told me. He smiled, and I took a few pictures and got up. Your turn, he said. Enjoy them and tell others. So I am. I'm telling you. I want you to know that with all the awfulness in the world, even amidst the destruction and death that threatens to swallow us, and sometimes almost does, there are still these audacious, hot, pink wild tulips growing on this little hill in Jerusalem, and they bloom every year for us to find. And as horrific as it is now, as soul-crushing and exhausting as it is to be a Jew these days, I realize something on the hill. I am living my ancestors' wildest dreams. When they were kicked out of their villages and stuffed into cattle cars, when they were burned in their beds and raped and beaten and tortured and killed, when they were forced out of Jerusalem in fire and ash, when we wept by the rivers of Babylon and prayed for this day, I've returned to Jerusalem, where I sit on this hill of springtime flowers that bloom from dry and broken ground after the rain falls, a hill overlooking the golden walls of the holy city, a hill in this space on the precipice of potential for all that is spectacular and for all the different people who make this place so holy. It is a privilege and it is a blessing. I don't take it lightly. I look for the light and I dream too, and I know that we dance in a spiral, hand in hand as one. And today, all these days and months later, and it's still October 7th today, right now, like every day, I feel many things. I'm scared, I'm heartbroken, but outside in our streets, I see our own expression on the faces of strangers, the same fear and anger and heartbreak. We don't have to explain or try to pretend to have it together. When we go to work or when we're in the supermarket, we can feel all the things we feel and feel them together, and that gives me a sense of kinship. We are one. It's not easy. Anti-Semitism is roiling. We are holding our breath, waiting for Iran to strike us at any moment. But the hostages are still not home, and life feels incredibly fragile. But I see how Israelis, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Druze, everybody are all coming together and helping each other, together as brothers and sisters and real and true friends, to make things a little better, everyday people who are now heroes. And even though I'm still not okay, and even though I doubt I'll ever be truly okay, there is nowhere else I would rather be. And I'm grateful that all of you are with me too. So thank you for having me and thank you for listening.
Sarah, thank you. I'm going to make it so you can see everyone's faces here. We are with you, and we are grateful for your beautiful voice. I hope this encourages everyone to follow you on social media. You are a bright light in a dark moment, and your words help to give voice to all the feelings in ways that I think many of us just lack the words for. So thank you for that. And would you be amenable if anybody has a question to unmute? I don't know if you're in a hurry, and I'm so impressed that your toddler waited so long. I was like, wow, that's very quiet.
Because Dad's doing a phenomenal job. I'm also going to include my email in the chat if people have questions and want to reach out at another point, and I'll include my WhatsApp as well.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
We can continue to be in touch. All right, there, rock and roll.
Terrific. Okay. And a reminder to everyone, Sarah works for Times of Israel, which is an extraordinary resource also, and hope that you can follow along with them as well. They, as Rachel and I were saying before everyone jumped on, is really a very important voice in English language journalism in Israel right now. Anyone have a question? Feel free to be informal and unmute if you'd like to. They're very quiet. Everyone's sort of wrapped. I could tell, Sarah, you kept us.
I just want to say thank you. I do follow you on Facebook, and I love reading what you have to say, and I just really appreciate all that you shared with us today. Some of it was really hard, but it was
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you.
Nancy. And I realize I went over the hour, and I appreciate everybody's patience. It's interesting for me to read through this because I'm not writing it now looking back. All of these are written in real time. So it was and I have